attend, but we'll get started right away if she's not here within another minute or two. Yes, we'll get started. I'm Laura Ritter. I'm the chairman. Welcome to everybody here. This is the the July 22nd meeting of the Parks and Shade Tree Commission. And we're here to hear an appeal requested by Phillip Jackson of Jackson's Tree Care. Before we get to that, let's have a roll call. Marty, you want to start? Just say your name and say present.
Hi, I'm Marty Marino.
Renee Simonton, present.
And I'm Laura Ritter. And that's 3 people, so we have a quorum, right? Okay. Should we go to the minutes? That would be next, right? We need to approve the minutes of the previous 2 meetings. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? Okay. So the minutes of June 26, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I so move. I second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes of June 26, 2023?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those minutes are approved, Dan. How about the minutes of July 24th, 2023?
I move the minutes be approved.
I second the motion.
And I agree.
You need to speak up.
Oh, okay, it's been moved and seconded that the July 24th, 2023 minutes be approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And there are no opposed. So both sets of minutes are approved. As everyone can see, we have not met for a while because the last minutes were July 24th, 2023. So it's been a year, and we are meeting under the new tree ordinance. So things have changed a little bit, but we are glad to see so many people here. Liz, we're glad to see you here. Would you like to give your report?
So, Madam Chair, before you proceed with that, I'd just like to make clear that this is a public hearing. And can you verify that the notice has been posted?
It was posted at City Hall and on the City Portal on June 27th.
Thanks.
Just in time. I'll give Katie a second to get up there. It's going down in the minutes.
Yeah. Katie, for the record, would you state your name?
Catherine Downs, Katie Downs.
You guys want to wait another minute, or are we good to start?
I think we're good to go.
Okay. The following is the report of the consulting city arborist regarding the above referenced appeal to be heard on July 22nd, 2024. A complete tree removal permit application was submitted to the city on April 25th, 2024 to remove 12 linden heritage trees from the property. A heritage tree is defined in 253-4 definitions as an existing tree of 20 inches DBH or more. The trees range in size from 20 to 30 inches DBH and front King Charles Avenue and Laurel Street. The Native American linden tree typically grows to 50 feet tall by 40 feet wide and is often planted as a specimen. They are resistant to pests, disease, and drought, which makes them a desirable urban tree. They are prone to developing weak branch angle attachments if left unpruned. However, research has shown that the wood's flexibility limits breakage. See attachment number 1. Overall, the tree is rated as mostly good with 3 rating excellent. This is in accordance with the Council of Tree and Landscape Appraisers, the acronym is CTLA for that, and International Society of Arboriculture, ISA, conditions rating system. For these trees, I performed a level 2 basic tree risk assessment in accordance with the ISA manual, which is a visual ground-based 360-degree analysis of a tree. The matrices used to determine risk are included as attachment number 2. This assessment examines conditions of concern related to a tree, the likelihood of a tree part or a whole tree failure, the occupancy rating of a space, and the likelihood of that tree part impacting a target, for example, a person, home, or car. That information is combined with the consequences of failure, however likely or unlikely, to determine a risk rating for the tree. And these assessments, all of the trees have an unlikely rating from Matrix 1, which means that the overall risk rating is low in Matrix 2. During my inspection, I did not find any evidence supporting the applicant's claim that there were major imminent risk factors. While ISA does not use such phrasing, imminent risk itself, as an example, would be a tree that has uprooted from a storm and was about to fail. Further, the applicant stated that trees were a major hazard, which my assessment did not support. As per the applicant's letter to the commission, I will address the referenced code sections individually. First is 253.3 applicability. Provisions of this chapter apply to all land in the municipal boundaries of the City of Rehoboth Beach. Activities that require review and approval by the city arborist are 1, private maintenance or planting of trees on public land. 2, all activities that require an approved tree plan. 3, all activities that require a tree removal permit. C, the provisions of this article may be suspended or waived by the city manager during a period officially declared emergency by the mayor or governor. I determined that the code is applicable to 403 King Charles Avenue under A and B3, as the property lies within the municipal boundaries and the intended removal of trees does require a permit. 2, which is 253-16, pruning of trees overhanging public space. This is under Article 2 related to the regulation of trees in public spaces. This relates only to trees on city property, so it's not applicable to this application. 3, which is 253-17, removal of dead or diseased trees costs. This is also in Article 2 related to regulation of trees in public spaces. Additionally, it authorizes the city to require removal of private trees if they constitute a hazard to life and property in public space. 3 is 253-25A2. The section of code was written in the denial letter, which stated trees were found not to meet the city code. The reasons it did not meet said code were given in the denial letter itself and referenced earlier in this report. 4, 253-25A3, the code section does not exist. 5, 232, streets and sidewalks. Although no subsections were stated in the appeal document, I believe the applicant is referring to 232-1, which states is the property owner's responsibility to replace and repair public sidewalk and curbing which is damaged or broken. As per the building inspector's report, which is attachment number 3, the sidewalks at the property are in good condition. The 2 minor repairs that need to occur would be the property owner's responsibility and are not attributable to the trees. I have consulted on, inspected, and coordinated tree and sidewalk repairs for thousands of trees over 12 years. While it can be an issue in narrow planting spaces, these trees have sufficient soil space to grow without impacting the hardscape. In summary, I found the 12 trees proposed for removal to be healthy and excellent specimens for the species. In a letter from the state's urban forestry coordinator, you will see she had a similar assessment in attachment number 4. I did not find these trees to represent an increased risk to the structures or the public. Risk must be balanced with the benefits trees provide, and in this case, the benefits far outweigh the low risk rating. If the commission were to grant the applicant's appeal request, 12 replacement trees would be required, meeting the conditions of 253-29, mitigation of protected trees. The approved planting plan would be required prior to the issuance of a tree removal permit. As per 253-30B-4, authority of the Parks and Shade Tree Commission. The Parks and Shade Tree Commission shall have the authority to hear and decide appeals where it is alleged that there is any error in any decision made by the city arborist related to a tree plan or tree removal permit. In exercising its authority, the Park and Shade Tree Commission may reverse or affirm, wholly or in part, or may modify the city arborist's decision only if it finds that the city arborist's decision is contrary to a specific provision of the chapter, is not supported by substantial evidence, or is arbitrary or capricious. The Park and Shade Tree Commission shall set forth its decision in writing within 30 days following the hearing, which decision shall include the findings and conclusions on which the decision was based. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Liz. Does anyone have questions for Liz?
I'll come back again at the end, so you can hold them if you have any.
Okay, you said that no tree planting plan was submitted, right?
No, but that's pretty common. So normally somebody would submit an application, and if it was going to be approved partially or wholly, I would say, okay, hypothetically, you'll be approved to remove these 2 trees. You'll need 2 replacement trees meeting these conditions, and then they'll submit the plan after the fact.
Okay, so
Before permit approval, but after submission.
okay. I also I wondered about the cost of the replacement for those 12 trees. Don't we have a minimum of $1,200 per tree?
If they were seeking a fee in lieu of mitigation, yeah. But if they were planting them, it would be less than that.
But then the circumference would only count for the trees that they actually plant, and they'd still need a fee in lieu, right?
So
This has got to be hundreds of inches.
it doesn't matter anymore. The new code, it's just tree for
Oh,
tree.
yeah, that's
There's
right,
no
tree for tree.
inches. Yeah, and since this isn't residential, there's no minimum density. It's just tree for tree, straight tree for tree replacement. Unless, of course, they exceed 90 inches remaining, which they would not if this was approved.
Okay, I forgot about the tree for tree.
Yeah, so that would be an option if they came and we have the city has the ability to do the fee in lieu internally. It's an administrative task. So if they elected to do that, they could. It would be cheaper to plant trees, though. Yeah,
Okay.
that was the main concern.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions of Liz?
So, Liz, I guess essentially, if they took these trees out now, they would have to replace one for one.
Yes.
And down the road, a similar, their argument is that it's something is happening now, but down the road, the same thing would basically happen again if they planted them in the same location.
I didn't observe what in terms of the sidewalk. Listen, we've done thousands of repairs for the city. I've done thousands outside of the city. That where you have trees, you have to be mindful of your sidewalks. And the city's developed a really good program with grinding the sidewalks, and we stay on top of that to eliminate any tripping barriers. I believe we started that maybe about 6 years ago and have really kept up with it. But it's not a problem unique to Rehoboth. If anything, we're much ahead of the game. But I didn't really observe anything, and you can see from the building inspector's report that there were really no problems and none on public property. We obviously can't go on private and inspect their sidewalks. But grinding a lift in a sidewalk is a very inexpensive thing. So definitely preferred. Grinding a lift in a sidewalk is 3 digits versus removing 4 figures, 3 figures versus removing a tree, which is 4. So definitely the better environmental aspect.
Is anyone here representing the applicant? would you like to come forward and use one of the microphones and identify yourself, please?
I don't really have any questions or anything. It's because I basically, even though.
Joe, you can use this one too, up here if you want to stand where I was. And tell them who you actually are.
My name's Joseph Fuller. I work for St. Edmund's as a caretaker and all. I kind of like the trees myself, but I think what they were hoping to do was to replace them with something a little bit smaller, like crepe myrtles or something like that, is what they were aiming for. And I don't know what you would think about having those trees trimmed back rather than taking them out. It sounds to me like that's a preferable thing, so.
Are you asking the commission? Would you like our comments on that?
Yeah,
Anyone want to respond?
I think that if you want to have them trimmed some or thin, have the canopy thinned, because the canopy is very dense right now. I
Right
mean, I
now.
think that would certainly be a good thing. I think it would be a reasonable thing and probably healthy for the tree. I mean, Liz would be the last
right.
word
that's-
on that, but I mean, from my understanding of trees, that would be a good.
You know, part of it's the canopy, like you say, is kind of encroaching on the new roof that they just put on, and that was, because that was pretty expensive, that was a concern, so
Wait, you mean the roof itself or
Yes.
keeping the leaves off it?
keeping the canopy off of the roof.
Did you have any other comments about?
No.
Oh, okay, well, thank you very much for representing the church, and we appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
If you have anything later on in the meeting, we can recognize you again. Okay, I think I'll open this up for public comment. We have 2 letters that we received today, which were included in our agenda, and which we've all had a chance, except Katie, to read. Would you like a moment, Katie, to read them?
Are they're included in?
There, that's,
Those 2 letters came in over the weekend.
Okay.
That's why they were not embedded in the agenda.
I figured they were dated
Okay.
today, so, but at least we got to read them, so. While Katie's reading, I would like to say that as far as I know, there have been 3 letters opposed to the removal of the trees by 3 people who live in the area. And we have received no other documentation, in favor of taking out the trees. So the only comments we've had so far are in favor of keeping the trees. Okay. So would anyone present like to speak in any manner? Okay. We're not too scary.
No, Lori Thier. I did write a letter, but I just want to add that I see those trees that are not touching the roof at all on that church, so they're not really encroaching on the new roof. If they got thinned out and pruned, like you're supposed to do with big trees like that, then it wouldn't be an issue at all. The other thing, I just have a question. What are the consequences if the tree, to the business that removes the tree or to the actual property owner, if they end up removing the trees without a permit?
Ooh, that's beyond my knowledge. So we'll defer to our attorney on that one.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So there's a violation section under 253 of the City Code, Chapter 253, trees. So there's a variety of actions the city can take. There's monetary fines. There's also equitable relief the city can pursue in the Court of Chancery to get an injunction to stop something from happening. So there are a few tools in the toolbox.
But if they cut down the trees,
Isn't there something about they lose their license for a while? The person who takes down the tree loses their license
okay. And
for
when-
a period of time.
Deny this, if you deny the permit, do the consequences get sent to the person who makes the application to just let them know what the consequences are if you remove the trees?
Oh, yeah, Liz will let them know exactly what we decide, and, well, she used to. Is that part of your job as consultant?
Yes, I actually have, that's what I was working on my tablet, the letter drafted, but we do not put penalties and violations in a decision letter, if that's the question. We don't say, hey, if you don't follow the rules,
Yeah,
this happens to you. No.
we're not giving anybody ideas on that, so.
They are in the code, and it's basically you can lose a license if you're a contractor or be a licensed contractor. If you are an unlicensed contractor, you can be prevented from obtaining a business license. You can be stopped. I honestly don't think some contractor would be able to come in and remove all 12 of those trees without the city getting a call, I hope.
There have been others removed already from that property without permits and stuff, so.
I know they've had permits there before, but and then you get fined the charter maximum, which is $500 a tree. It can't go beyond that. And then you have to replace the trees as well. So then if you can't replace the trees, then you have to pay the $1,200 per 2-inch tree. So the $500 fine is minimal, but it is allowed by our charter. So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, and you were one of the people who wrote the letter, so thank you for coming to the meeting as well. Yes?
Jan Conacy, 42 Oak Avenue. I obviously live on the other side of town where we are full of very large trees. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, I walk all the time, and I walk by St. Edmund's, and the trees are gorgeous. And I'm appalled beyond belief, as are my neighbors, that they would even consider taking them down and replacing them with crepe myrtles, which aren't really trees at all, and which have crepe myrtle bark disease, and which I have spent a lot of money getting rid of it. And so we could keep them, although I wish I would have planted something else along 20-some years ago. But, and the liability issue. Frankly, if you look at teenage boys, they have the unsafest driving record, but we still let them drive. And we put precautions in place. We make them pass a test, we have insurance, and we try to make it as safe as can. If you have trees, you have a moral responsibility to take care of them, to trim them when they needed trimming, to cut back, whatever. You don't just let them go to, go any which way. But I was just so appalled that they would even try, and it's so beautiful. And you know what? We live in the Pines. We have pine needles all over our roof. Guess what? All you do is use a leaf blower, which I detest leaf blowers, and it gets them all off, or you get up there with a broom and you sweep them off. It's not a big deal. And you put these little guards over your rain gutters, and then even the needles don't get in them. So, I mean, you take care of your trees, and you take care of your property so the trees don't damage it, but you take care of the trees. You don't cut them down.
Thank you. Okay, would you like to speak?
My name is Sam Cooper. I live at 13 Newcastle Street, which is just kind of around the corner from the church. In fact, I've lived there all my life, and I suspect these trees are younger than I am. So I've probably seen them grow up, but I didn't notice them till recently. although I was very aware of them. I think they're great specimens of linden trees. And I'm a little disappointed, I guess, because I came here to plead with the church to withdraw their application. And I don't think there's anybody here today that can do that. So I guess I have to make my argument to you folks. I would prefer not to put you in this position. I think that I certainly appreciate what the church has done, and I consider them a very good neighbor. They've spent a lot of money on that property. They have a lot of open space, and I can't find fault with the church except for wanting to remove these trees. These aren't the most magnificent trees in the world. They're probably not the most magnificent trees in Rehoboth, but they certainly add a lot to that area. I think they're ideal for that area. They shade the sidewalk. Whoever planted them there, I think, did a magnificent job of locating them because they're far enough from the sidewalk. They don't impact the sidewalk, but yet they provide the shade. So again, my plea is that, these are living things, and yeah, they're not perfect, but the church has managed for however many years to coexist with these trees, and I would hope that they could continue to do the same. And so I guess my appeal to you now is to deny this application to reverse the arborist decision, simply because it is the right thing to do, because these trees do add so much, and I don't think they've made a great case of why they need to be removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
The lady in the back?
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Frances Kelleher, 318 Stickley Street. Is there any way for me to project a picture?
Yes.
Or
Liz, do
could
you
I even just show you this picture?
Liz, can you arrange for her to project that picture somehow?
I think, Ann, can't you just turn it on? And they had plenty of pictures in their packet of the trees.
I guess while we're seeing if that can go up, I can start to just say, I have a linden tree, and it's a big tree. In fact, I'm pursuing submitting to the state to have my linden.
Can you zoom in there, Ann? I'm not sure if you can. There she is.
Okay, so that's pretty good. And I want to show you one other from the back. So at the Governor Ross Mansion is the largest linden in the state of Delaware. And I went and visited it because my linden is really a giant. This picture doesn't quite do it justice. My house is actually on a raised sort of hill. The linden tree is down at ground level, which is like more in the front of the street. And as Liz mentioned, mostly lindens are specimen trees because they are such giants. So what I could show another picture from the back, which is a better shot of showing how high this linden towers over a two-story, really, and almost a 2.5-story home because the foundation is so high up on the hill. And I think that I would agree that with former Mayor Cooper that perhaps St. Edmunds hasn't made a very good case. And I would say that the landscaper who's here today, he mentioned they wanted to replace the trees perhaps with crepe myrtles, but he said perhaps. It wasn't a definitive thing. I could see that, and Mayor Cooper is right, those trees are probably younger than him. They are really young lindens. And the fact is that when those and the other thing I'll point out, real life truth about lindens is they really do tend in storms to break their branches. Their branches, I don't know what the right name is, but they go up and they become very heavy and they are prone to breaking. And every time there's a storm, I'm having, lots of not only twigs and branches, but limbs. Limbs will come down. So I think that St. Edmund's proposal has a basis in the reasoning that a linden tree, when it becomes mature, is such a giant. And to have 12 of them on the one block around along that, mainly the one side of the church, in the future, they will grow up and become more problematic. And therefore, I support the landscaper, the church, wanting to replace them with a smaller tree. I would also concur that, to me, crepe myrtles really are meant to be more like bushes, but a smaller tree that isn't going to grow up and have a 40-foot spread. So if you multiply 40, the 40-foot spread times 12, I mean, you're talking over 400. You're really talking a lot of 400 feet kind of in a linear, and that's going to have huge overlap. And again, I think huge potential for branches falling, and not now, not next year, but hopefully like that the lindens can live for very long times, like the one at the Governor Ross Mansion. And so in the course of time, they will grow up and be really too many giant trees there. And it would actually be better from a tree, I think, lover's perspective, to try to even conserve the number so that they have the space. The ones that, another idea would be that some of them could be cut, but maybe not all of them, that they would then have their proper space for their canopies, their width, and also, well, not their height, but their width. I can show you the one other picture. Do you want to see that one? It's a winter time picture, and it's from the back. Top of my library. They're also, in this winter picture I'll show you, they're very, also, again, the branches.
I need you at the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get the picture up. Okay. There we go.
Wow, that is a tall tree.
So this is a winter shot, and the linden, again, this is a shot of the ice and snow, and again, they're really giant trees, and this is a mature linden. Oh, and I never did finish my thought that I actually believe my linden is bigger than the current Delaware big tree at the Governor Ross Mansion, so I'm trying to submit for getting it designated as the Delaware big linden. But again, when the ice or snow, and really just wind and rain like we had a couple weeks ago, will bring down a lot of branches, not only branches, but limbs. Thank you.
Could I ask you a question? Do you have an estimate of how old your tree is?
Well, I know that this house is is over 100 years old. So I would estimate, that this linden would have perhaps been planted around the time that this arts and crafts home was built, which was in the early 1920s.
Thank you. Do you have a question for the, oh, okay. Would you like to be recognized? Thank you.
I'm Rosemary Kindash. I live at the house next.
Can you speak close.
I'm Rosemary Kondash. I live at 100 Laurel. We, if you look at St. Edmund's, I'm the house next door. We have had our house for at least 20 to 25 years. Never once during any of the major storms have we seen a true limb come from those trees. They are dirty trees, but so is every tree that we have in Rehoboth. They need yearly maintenance. They need to be cut back. They need to be pruned on a regular basis, not when somebody decides that it's time to do it. It was time to do it years ago so that the canopies aren't so big. So I appreciate everybody being here, but those trees need to stay.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Hi, I'm Elise Burns, 130 Henlopen Avenue. I did submit a letter, and thank you, Ann, for including it this morning. I guess I stand here in disbelief that, you know, as residents, citizens of Rehoboth, we value our tree canopy. I'm a former member of the Tree and Green Infrastructure Committee, along with Katie, and we spend a lot of time, you know, educating our citizenry about the value of our trees, the benefits that they bring. I think we've heard a lot about them. I just can't believe that St. Edmund's would want to cut down 12 native heritage trees without thinking about all the maintenance that they should have done prior to this. It sounds like these trees are, I don't know, at least 40 years old. Should have been pruned probably the first couple of years, been maintained throughout their lifespan. They've got many years to go. I hope St. Edmund's gets better advice than Jack's Tree Service. I took the time to look up Mr. Jack. He's not a certified arborist. He doesn't have any certified arborists on staff. He's in business to cut trees. And so that's the, you know, he's a, you know, high ratings for tree cutting, but that's what he does. So, you know, St. Edmund's needs to hire an arborist, get proper tree maintenance, and those trees can live a long time without branches falling down. And I guess that's, I just hope, I hope the commission supports Liz's recommendations as well as the Delaware Forest Service. I think the church did proceed with getting an opinion from the Delaware Forest Service, and they also said the trees were healthy specimens. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to make a comment? Some of our latecomers in the back, maybe? Okay. Okay. All right. If there's no further, is there any further comment at all? Okay, with no further comment, I'm going to close the hearing, and then the commission will discuss the issue. Okay, the public portion of the meeting is closed.
Madam Chair, if I could just add one thing. I know it's been a while since this group has met. I think it was last July.
Yeah. It's a
And
whole
so,
year.
Speaking to the standard of review and the authority of this body, Liz's reports are independent of this body, so no slight against Liz, but your decision should be made not simply deferring to Liz. You should look at her report. And as Liz quoted, 253-30B4 speaks to the authority of this commission. So it states that you may reverse, affirm, or you may reverse or affirm wholly in part, or may provide the city arborist decisions only if it finds, it being this body, only if this body finds that the city's arborist decision is contrary to a specific provision of this chapter, chapter 253 trees, is not supported by substantial evidence, or is arbitrary and capricious. So if there's an issue with her report, then you can reverse it.
Okay, so now we have to deliberate. Does anyone want to make a comment? Katie, would you like to comment on the trees I'm worried that these trees could eventually outgrow the space if they get as big as the one we saw in the photos. But I don't think it's a pressing issue at this point, but I just wondered, you know more about trees than I do.
My thought is about that is that with 12 trees in a relatively small space, they will never get to be as large and beautiful as her tree. They will stay considerably smaller. They don't have the root space and the ability to get as large. If they took out every other one, then they would have a chance to get larger, but that I think it would, in my personal opinion and professional opinion, I think it would be better to thin the trees, trim them, thin them, maintain them, and deal with, deal with what comes down the line, but knowing that they have been maintained properly.
Thank you, Katie.
I just have a question for Liz. Just a professional question. Do you think with sort of gentle thinning over a prolonged number of years that it's just going to prolong the viability of the trees, the likelihood that we definitely wouldn't, not definitely, but we'd have less likely to have issues with them? As I wouldn't want to say, oh, somebody comes in and prunes them and they're too aggressive. And,
Right.
I'd like to see, gentle pruning, thinning, this year, next, over a course of time.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Yeah, maintenance as a
What I'm
whole, like trees like that, probably every 3 to 5 years need something done to them. And if they suddenly develop large dead limbs after 2 years, then yeah, you would have to come back in. But tell anybody, if you have trees of that size close to your property, you should have them looked at every year. And most tree companies, you will do that free of charge. So they will come and look. You can call 3, 4, 5, 1. I mean, it doesn't matter, but common sense also goes a long way. So if you're standing and looking at a tree in your yard and something looks different or not right, or there are limbs or there's a lean, then you should call somebody. I used to have people say that, well, I'm not a tree expert, but this doesn't, well, your common sense and your observation matter. Like there's a component of that. But I would say with those trees, it's like any other tree. They're prone to developing multiple limbs. So instead of like a more upright tree like an oak, those trees want to be more like a maple, and you have to kind of curtail that tendency because there are that is that tree's shape and form, just like that's how a red maple or silver maple grow. So you have to do some remedial work on that. But there's nothing in those trees, like was said, they're probably 40 years old, maybe. And because it's almost like with a street tree planting design, if they had spaced them out further, like Katie said, they would have gotten larger, faster. If you put them closer together, the canopies will be a little bit smaller, the trunks will grow a little slower. And that's just a design choice when you're doing street tree planting. I personally like them closer together with overlapping canopies and a little bit more restricted growth. That's me. Other people, like if you've ever seen a tree grow in the middle of the field, it'll look a lot different than a tree that's shoved in a tree pit, right? Like you can look at trees on Rehoboth Avenue and they've been there, how long it's been since streetscape, 20 years, and you would think they were half that age, yeah. So it makes a big difference. But yeah, regular maintenance, like anything in your house, whether it be a tree, landscaping, your plumbing, your roof, you have to keep an eye on it.
Marty?
Well, I agree with both of the other members of the commission here and would recommend finding a qualified arborist to maintain, to undo, if possible, some of the neglect that the trees have been subjected to, and to maintain them in the future. I mean, we don't want them to get bigger. I mean, so I'm kind of against thinning them out, because to allow them to get bigger, because that's not the goal. The goal is to keep them and enjoy them and keep them so that they're safe companions to the church property.
Well, thinning only helps them.
Wait,
By thinning, I meant removing.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that was like a hypothetical, I think, what we were saying. But those trees aren't going to get much larger, in my opinion. I think if you look at the growth from this year, you're not looking at 6 inches to a foot of growth. You're looking at like 1 to 3 inches. So they're not going to be expanding because of their proximity to each other. They're not going to be expanding a ton. And if the desire was really truly to limit the above ground growth, there are other things you can do as well that a certified arborist would be able to advise the church on. That would actually help the health of the tree. So
I would just like to comment that the church has so far not presented exactly what it is that they think is an error in your report. So we don't really have grounds for reversing, to agree to this appeal, because we don't have any argument that shows Liz made a decision that was capricious or in error in any way. I don't see what error. Her report was actually seconded by the state arborist, so I'm not sure what grounds we would have to approve this appeal. I mean, I think everybody's common sense is that I definitely appreciate how many leaves those trees are going to drop, because even one of those trees would be a heck of a lot of leaves to blow or rake up or whatever. But that is not a basis for us to allow the trees to be removed. So would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we affirm Liz's decision.
And that the trees remain.
Remain.
Would anyone like to second it?
Yes, I would like to second the motion.
There in,
I'd like to make a motion to affirm Liz's report and that the trees will remain.
Did you have any other question? Walter? Okay, the motion being made and seconded, are we ready to vote?
And
Katie?
procedurally, go around one at a time and state your reasons. Feel free to adopt the reasonings of your colleagues.
Katie?
I feel that we should affirm Liz's decision based on the sheer fact that the church did not present the evidence that Liz was incorrect. But also, I think that it would be a terrible shame to lose those trees. I agree with the other citizens that they're really nice. When you walk by, all the shade and they're pretty. They They look very nice. And I agree that they're not going to get hugely larger just by where they're planted and the closeness to which they're planted.
Thank you. Marty?
Yes, I agree with the motion that was presented. And on the basis of what I've read and what I've heard today, and what I've seen by going to the premises, that the trees should remain there.
Renee?
I've reviewed the documents and listened to everyone's testimony, visited the site, and the aesthetic value alone, together with all of the parts, I think the trees need to remain there.
I agree with everyone for the reasons they've said, and just really, one of the main things that the applicant said was the problem with the sidewalks, and those sidewalks look great. You can walk on a lot of roads and streets in Rehoboth and not see sidewalks that look that great. And I just feel that the danger to the cars and pedestrians could be alleviated by proper pruning and maintenance, which I think would just be a better use of the church's funds than taking out all those trees and putting in something else. So I salute the church for having such a beautiful canopy along King Charles, because it is one of the nicest walks you can take in Rehoboth, and I think we really need to pay attention to preserving these beautiful specimen trees wherever we can in Rehoboth, because it is one of the things that sets us apart from practically any other beach town on the East Coast that I've been to. So I think we are unanimous in denying the appeal and affirming Liz's decision and keeping the trees. Can I adjourn?
We're all done now, and now there'll be a written decision per the code. I think Liz will take the first draft of that.
Okay. I think we are all in agreement. This meeting is adjourned.